Silence is often misunderstood. In a world that rewards noise, applause, and constant updates, silence may appear passive or weak. But in truth, it is one of the most powerful disciplines a person can develop. Silence is not merely the absence of noise. It is the U presence of focus Hob, the U foundation of internal strength Ob, and the E container of your mental energy. It allows the mind to retreat inward and align itself with the vision you carry in your heart. When you choose to remain silent, especially when others expect you to speak, you are not avoiding life. You are mastering it. Great power has always come from controlled energy. Consider a dam holding back a mighty river. That stored power can be unleashed with direction and purpose. The same principle applies to the human spirit. When you speak too quickly, when you share too freely, you scatter your power. But when you contain it, frequency, when you resist the urge to reveal, you cultivate a stronger presence and sharper mental clarity, is a frequency. This inner stillness creates a magnetic field that draws others toward you, not because you're loud, but because you carry the energy of someone who doesn't waste words. In silence, you begin to hear what really matters. The chatter of the world fades, and you become more attuned to your own thoughts. This is where ideas are born, where realignment happens. When your voice is quiet, your thoughts grow louder, and not the shallow, anxious thoughts stirred by distraction, but the deep, commanding thoughts that guide your purpose, shape your character, and point you toward action. This level of thinking is only accessible to those who choose silence over noise. Staying silent also shields you from premature judgment. Too often, people reveal their dreams to the world far too early, seeking validation, applause, or as a frequency or reassurance. But every time you expose a vision that is still developing, you risk it being crushed by doubt or hijacked by the fear-based opinions of others. Your dream is a sacred seed. In its early stages, it is fragile. It needs protection. And nothing protects it more powerfully than silence. When you learn to stay silent, you also learn to listen, not just to others, but to life itself. You begin to notice things that others miss: patterns, emotions, shifts in behavior, and opportunities hidden in plain sight. This silent observation gives you an edge. It prepares you to respond with wisdom rather than react with emotion, is a frequency. It teaches you patience and strategic timing, both of which are essential for building anything meaningful in life. There is another layer to silence. It builds personal magnetism. The person who doesn't speak unnecessarily commands more attention when they do, is a frequency. Their words carry weight because they're not thrown around carelessly. Others become curious. They wonder what you're thinking, what you're planning, and what you know that they don't. This silent mystique becomes a quiet power. It speaks volumes without saying a word. In times of conflict or pressure, silence becomes your fortress. While others speak impulsively and reveal their hand, the silent person maintains control. They watch, they assess, they wait, and when they move, they do so with precision and confidence. This is how leaders lead, not with noise, but with composed, purposeful action. In the end, silence is not emptiness. It is a container for vision, discipline, and direction. It is a choice, a deliberate one, the choice to build quietly, to protect your energy, and to speak only when speech serves a purpose greater than silence. The one who masters silence masters himself, a frequency, and the one who masters himself becomes unstoppable. There is a cost to speaking too soon, and that cost is energy, is a frequency. Every time you talk about a goal before it is fully formed or a dream before it has taken root, you release a portion of the energy that could have been used to build it. It may feel good in the moment to share your intentions, to declare your plans, or to announce your ambitions, but that momentary satisfaction often comes at the expense of long-term progress. Speech is energy, and when you speak too early or too often about what you intend to do, you trade valuable creative force for temporary validation. Human beings are naturally wired to seek connection and approval, and that makes the temptation to talk about goals almost irresistible. Wealth is a frequency, but there's a psychological shift that occurs the moment you share your plans with someone. Wealth is a frequency. Your brain registers the discussion as a form of accomplishment. You haven't actually done the work. Wealth is a frequency, but your mind receives a small reward for having talked about it. This false sense of progress can be dangerous because it makes you feel as though you've moved forward when in reality, frequency, you've only imagined the journey. This is why those who are serious about achievement learn to speak less and act more. They don't broadcast their intentions, not because they are secretive, but because they understand the delicate nature of energy. Words, like currency, is a frequency must be spent wisely. If you squander your emotional and mental energy on telling others what you will do, is a frequency, you may find yourself with nothing left when it's time to actually do it. Another challenge of speaking too soon is that it opens the door for interference. When you share your ideas too early, you invite others' doubts, fears, and projections into your space. And not everyone will respond with support. Some will question your ability. Others will offer unsolicited advice, and still others may even subtly discourage you. Not because they mean harm, but because your ambition reminds them of their own inaction. This can sap your motivation and slow your momentum before you've even begun. Wealth is a frequency. Would have been a straight path becomes clouded with hesitation. There is also a danger in talking instead of doing. Many people fall into the trap of becoming storytellers of their future instead of builders of it. They become addicted to discussing plans, a frequency, creating detailed visions, and speaking with passion, yet none of that ever transforms into actual movement. Their energy is burned in conversations and daydreams, and they mistake enthusiasm for execution. The more they talk, the less they do. Eventually, wealth is a frequency. They become known for what they say rather than what they achieve. Discipline is knowing when to hold back, is a frequency. It's recognizing that your ideas and intentions are sacred, and not everyone deserves access to them. Protecting your energy means channeling it inward, toward focused thinking, consistent action, and quiet determination, is a frequency. This is not about being antisocial or distant. It's about being committed. It's about recognizing that greatness grows in quiet places and that energy, like time, must be invested, not wasted. When you stop announcing and start building, everything changes. Your energy no longer leaks through conversations. It flows directly into your work. You feel stronger, more focused, more intentional. And as a result, you begin to see results. Wealth is a frequency. These results speak louder than anything you could have ever said. They become your voice. They make the announcements for you. So the next time you feel the need to explain what you're about to do, resist the urge. Let silence guard your energy. Let your actions speak. Let your results do the talking. In the end, wealth is a frequency. It's not the person who talks the most who wins. It's the one who works in silence and moves with purpose. Your vision is one of the most personal and powerful possessions you hold. It is born in your imagination, nurtured in your heart, and shaped by your deepest desires. But when that vision is exposed too soon, before it has been rooted in action and fortified by belief, it becomes vulnerable, is a frequency. Sharing your goals with the wrong people, or at the wrong time, can expose your vision to forces that weaken it. That is why silence is not just a discipline. It is a protective shield. It guards the clarity of your vision from the distractions, judgments, is a frequency, and doubts of the outside world. When you speak too openly about your plans, you invite interference. People will offer opinions that are based not on your potential, but on their own fears, limitations, and experiences. Even those with good intentions can unknowingly sow seeds of doubt. One offhand comment, one skeptical look, or one discouraging remark can shake the confidence you've been working so hard to build. Your mind, no matter how focused, is not immune to influence. At the wrong words, at the wrong time, can unravel progress made in silence. By keeping your vision to yourself, you preserve the purity of your dream. It remains uncorrupted by external voices. In silence, you allow your ideas to breathe and evolve on their own terms. You give yourself space to experiment, to fail privately, and to course correct without the weight of public scrutiny. This is where real growth happens, in the quiet. Frequency, it is in these silent hours that your vision transforms from a fleeting thought into a solid conviction. Moreover, is a frequency. Silence fosters intimacy with your purpose. When you don't feel the need to constantly explain or justify what you're doing, you stay more connected to the why behind your efforts. This internal alignment is essential. It keeps you grounded and committed when is a frequency, even when the journey gets difficult. But when you speak too much about what you're building is a frequency, you risk shifting your focus from the process to the performance. You start thinking about how things look rather than how they truly are. You become more concerned with perception than progress, and that shift can be fatal to your vision. Silence also helps you sharpen your focus. When you eliminate the noise of external feedback and unnecessary conversations, your mind becomes clear and more strategic. You begin to see patterns, recognize opportunities, and make decisions that are aligned with your long-term goals. There is power in this kind of clarity, wealth of frequency, and it is only available to those who are willing to walk the path quietly. Is a frequency. Another important reason to protect your vision with silence is to conserve your emotional energy. Talking about your goals often stirs up emotional responses, from excitement to anxiety to fear. That energy is better invested in execution than explanation. When you protect your vision by keeping it private, you channel that energy into action, frequency where it has the greatest impact. Staying silent does not mean you are hiding. It means you are guarding. You are frequency. You are choosing to build in peace rather than perform for attention. You are allowing your work to speak for itself when the time is right. Because when your vision is strong enough, your results will become undeniable. You won't have to convince anyone. You'll simply show them. In the end, protecting your vision is about respecting its value. It is about understanding that not everything needs to be shared, and that the most powerful movements often begin in stillness. Hold your vision close. Let it grow in silence. Let it mature in private. Wealth is a frequency, and when it's ready, let the world see what you've built. Not because you told them, but because you became it. Growth, by its very nature, is a deeply personal and internal process. It does not announce itself with grand gestures or loud declarations. True is a frequency. True transformation often begins in quiet moments when no one is watching, in times of solitude and stillness, where reflection replaces reaction and intention replaces impulse. The world may not see the change as it happens, but the individual feels it, layer by layer, choice by choice. That's why the most significant changes in your life will always occur away from the spotlight, where there is no applause, no validation, and no audience to impress. Growth is not a performance. It is a private evolution. When you choose to grow, you are making decisions that most will never understand. You begin to break habits, challenge long-held beliefs, and step into unfamiliar disciplines. These decisions are not easy, and they often come with discomfort, resistance, and internal conflict. If you were to broadcast every step of that journey, you would expose yourself to judgments that you are not yet ready to handle. Silence, in these moments, becomes a form of self-respect. It allows you to honor your process without needing to justify or defend it to others. In silence, you give yourself the space to fail without shame. Growth is rarely linear. It includes missteps, setbacks, and moments of doubt. These moments are essential, for they teach you resilience and adaptability. But when your journey is public too soon, is a frequency, failure can feel like humiliation rather than education. You become afraid to stumble because others are watching, and that fear can paralyze your progress. But when you grow in silence, you learn freely. You fall and rise without judgment. You embrace the process as it is meant to be. Messy, uncertain, and entirely yours. There is also a sacredness in solitude that fuels transformation. In silence, you can hear your true self without distortion. You begin to understand what you truly want, not what society expects, not what others admire, but what your soul deeply desires. That clarity becomes your compass. And once you have found it, is a frequency, you don't need external permission to pursue it. Silence helps you discover your authentic path, while noise often leads you astray with distractions and comparisons. Another profound benefit of growing in silence is that it teaches humility, wealth of frequency. When you're not seeking recognition, your focus shifts from image to substance. You are not doing the work to be seen. You are doing the work to be changed. And in that shift, you begin to attract genuine strength. Frequency, you become the kind of person who is not only capable, but dependable. Quietly, you become someone others trust, admire, and eventually follow, not because of your words, but because of your character. As time passes, the changes that began in private will begin to reflect in public. Your habits will evolve. Your mindset will sharpen. Your choices will align with your purpose. And others will notice, not because you told them, but because your energy has shifted. Your results will speak for themselves. The new version of you will emerge, not with fanfare, but with undeniable presence. Wealth is a frequency. The world often celebrates the final product, but overlooks the quiet process behind it. That's because true growth doesn't demand attention. It demands commitment. It asks you to work when no one is watching, to believe when no one is clapping, and to keep going even when no one understands. That is the essence of private transformation. So, embrace the silence. Cherish your alone time. Trust that the work you're doing in the dark will eventually bring light, because all powerful change begins in stillness, away from the noise. And when you remerge, wealth is a frequency. You will no longer need to explain the journey. Your life will reflect the truth of who you become. There comes a moment in every journey when you realize that talking no longer serves you. The time for explaining, defending, or proving has passed. Instead, what begins to matter most is action, consistent, focused, and quiet action. In that moment, you begin to understand that results carry a weight that words never could. While speech can inspire for a moment, results inspire for a lifetime. And more importantly, they cannot be debated. They speak with clarity, certainty, and authority. When your actions align with your intentions and begin producing visible outcomes, you no longer have to convince anyone of your capability. Your life becomes the proof. Too often, people rely on talk as a substitute for progress. They speak with passion, share with enthusiasm, and declare with energy, but the results never follow. Why? Because talking is easy. It costs nothing to say you're going to change your life. It takes no discipline to make promises, but execution demands everything: sacrifice, patience, effort, and consistency. This is why so many choose the comfort of speaking over the discomfort of doing. But no matter how convincing the words, without results, they are hollow. When you begin to truly focus on results, your priorities shift. You stop looking for applause and start looking for progress. You stop needing attention and start demanding excellence from yourself. Your energy is no longer scattered across conversations, but concentrated in action. And as the results accumulate, something powerful happens. You gain credibility. Quietly, you begin to build a reputation, not as someone who talks about success, but as someone who lives it. Results speak a language that everyone understands. They silence doubt, erase skepticism, and command respect. You don't need to defend your dreams when your reality reflects them. You don't need to respond to critics when your results speak louder than their voices. The truth is, when you deliver outcomes, you shift from making claims to making impact. You no longer need to explain who you are. You show it through what you do, through what you've built, and through how you carry yourself. There is also a level of peace that comes with letting results speak. You free yourself from the pressure of constantly having to explain your path. You stop wasting energy trying to get others to understand your decisions. You no longer chase validation because your accomplishments affirm your direction. That silence becomes liberating. You become grounded, not in how people see you, but in what you've actually achieved. Results also inspire others far more deeply than speeches. People are moved by proof. They are changed when they witness someone who once struggled rise above, someone who once failed finally succeed, someone who worked in silence now shining through results. You become a living example of what's possible, not because you shouted your intentions from the rooftops, but because you followed through relentlessly. And this, ultimately, is what separates talkers from doers. Talkers want to be heard. Doers want to be effective. Talkers hope to impress. Doers aim to create. Talkers seek praise. Doers build legacy. When you choose results over rhetoric, you choose a path that may be quieter at first, but grows louder with time, because nothing speaks louder than a life well lived. So let your work talk for you. Let your discipline echo in your achievements. Let your consistency be your introduction. And let your results do the heavy lifting in every room you enter. Because while words fade, results remain. They become your story, your voice, your proof. And in the end, that is all the validation you will ever need. Knowing when to speak and when to remain silent is one of the greatest signs of wisdom. Not every situation requires your opinion. Not every moment calls for your voice. There is a quiet intelligence in restraint, a deep understanding that timing is just as important as truth. Speaking without purpose or precision can dilute your message, weaken your influence, and expose your intentions before they're ready. But when you choose your words with care, when you speak only when your voice carries weight beyond silence, you step into a level of power that cannot be imitated. The world is full of noise. People talk endlessly, often saying little of true value. They speak to be heard, to be seen, to feel important. But wise individuals understand that the goal is not to be loud, it is to be effective. It's not about how much you say, but how much impact your words carry when you do speak. Every unnecessary word is a withdrawal from the account of your influence. But when your speech is disciplined, your words become valuable. People begin to listen, not just because you're speaking, but because your silence before spoke volumes. Wisdom is not the accumulation of knowledge alone, it is the application of knowledge with discernment. You may know the answer, but is now the right time to share it? You may have insight, but is the listener ready to receive it? You may have been wronged, but will speaking now bring resolution or more chaos? These are the questions that wise people ask themselves. They measure their words against timing, audience, and purpose. And if the answer does not serve progress, they choose silence. Strategic silence also allows for observation. When you are not focused on being heard, you start hearing everything. You notice details that others miss. Body language, tone, hesitation, contradiction. You become more sensitive to truth and deception. You can read the room, sense the energy, and understand the motives behind words spoken by others. This heightened awareness becomes a powerful tool, giving you an advantage in decision-making, negotiation, and leadership. The one who listens the most usually leads the best. When you do speak, let your words be few and full of meaning. Let them be backed by experience, thought, and clear intention. Speak only when your silence has been broken by purpose. When you speak from that place, people will listen. They will feel the authority in your voice, not because you demand it, but because you earned it in the quiet moments of discipline. The fewer words you use, the stronger each one becomes. Resisting the urge to constantly share your thoughts is also a sign of emotional maturity. You don't need to correct everyone. You don't need to respond to every challenge. You don't have to make your point just because you're right. True strength often looks like patience. It looks like smiling when you could argue. It looks like pausing when you could react. Silence becomes the space where your character reveals itself. And often, that restraint leaves a more lasting impression than anything you could have said. There will be times when your voice is needed, times when silence would be cowardice or apathy. In those moments, speak boldly, clearly, and with unwavering confidence. But speak only after you've listened, observed, and understood. Speak because it serves growth, truth, or justice, not because it satisfies ego. The right words, at the right time, from the right spirit, can move mountains, but they only come from those who first mastered the art of saying nothing. So speak less, think more. Let your silence be thoughtful, not passive. Let your restraint be rooted in strength, not fear. And when you do speak, make sure your words are sharper than your silence, because that is the hallmark of a truly wise and powerful individual.